So, It's Not That Easy is a short story I initially wrote back on June 16th of 2020. And yes, it is a little cliche, but I knew that the basic premise of the story was I wanted to write it about two high school friends who one of them confesses their feelings for the other in a written note, which you will actually get to hear at the very end. Because the way I intentionally wrote this story is like I wrote it knowing I wanted it to be dual POV, and it was going to be from the perspective of Sophia as well as Alexander. And this story ultimately really challenged me as a writer in a lot of ways, because I don't traditionally write dual POV stories like ever. Like my narratives, I'm gonna be honest, are always like super like linear, and it's just one character narrating the story. But in this one, it's two of them, and I really liked that. It was able to challenge me as a writer and everything. And I'm obviously not gonna spoil it, but I really like the ending of this story and everything. And fun fact, the aspect of Sophia writing the note to Alexander, confessing her feelings for him, is actually inspired by my real life, sorta. So, and yes, if so, oh my god, I almost wanted to say his name, but I mean, I'm pretty sure this person watches my videos, so I don't really know if it matters, but I had this really close friend we met back in 6th grade when we were 12, and we dated very briefly in 8th grade when we were 14, and oh my god, our way of communicating to each other in 8th grade when we were dating was we would literally write handwritten notes to each other and pass them or to each other, like give them to each other. Like there'd be times where like we wouldn't have like the same classes as one another, or like sometimes we would, and then like we'd give the other person the note, and the other person, would read it and respond. It was a really cliche way of communicating, but it was actually kind of, it was something I looked forward to a lot. But yeah, no, that, okay, I'm kind of getting off topic, but, so having done that with my close friend and first real boyfriend, that element, is essentially what inspired this story, if that makes sense, where basically it unravels that Sylvia's note where she is confessing her feelings for her friend, and it's inspired by something I legitimately did in real life, because like fun fact, the way I asked at the time I was 14, the way I asked my friend to be my boyfriend, I will never forget this. I cannot remember what the like main contents of the note were, but I put like a PS, I think, at the end of it. I said something so dumb. I was like, PS, will you be my boyfriend, or some shit. Yeah, no. And like it was like one of those, and I'll never forget, he comes in to class, like we had, this was like our last class of the day, and I remember it was like the beginning of class. Because one thing we always used to do is we always used to sit next to each other, right, or something. And he like, I remember he like comes in, huge smile on his face, and he's like, and he goes like, he was all like, hell yeah, I'll be your boyfriend. Like, I don't know, it was just so stupid. It's like you do that stuff when you're a teenager and you don't know. I don't know. But yeah, this is kind of a long author's note. I'm so sorry, but it's basically just my way of trying to, because I like doing these author's notes where I pop in before you hear the story. And yeah, I hope you enjoy nonetheless. As I was saying, I'm really proud of the way this story turned out, and I hope you are as well. Yeah, I hope you enjoy listening to it. I might eventually post, the full written version, probably on, Instagram or my blog, but yeah, I hope you enjoy. Sylvia. My hands were shaking as I passed the note to Alexander, my heart pounding rapidly inside my chest as nerves fluttered inside my stomach. It's funny that such a simple gesture was enough to send me spiraling into a world of nerves and wondering endlessly about the what-ifs and the what could-have-beens. Sometimes I really wish I didn't waste my energy pondering over such a thing, but alas, not all minds were perfect, and I certainly wasn't the exception to such a concept. But I digress. This had been something I'd wanted to make happen for a while, but being unsure of how to go about doing so, I pondered a multitude of different ideas inside my head to get my point across. If anything, I just hope it worked and that Alexander wasn't too freaked out by my confession. God, why was the beginning stage always so difficult? I thought. If anything, I honestly wish that there was an instruction manual for how to properly confess feelings for your best friend, regardless of how cliche or outdated the idea might be. If there was an instruction manual, mine would go something like this. Step 1. Admit to yourself that you have feelings for your best friend. Step 2. Devise a plan for how you're going to tell them what you truly feel. Step 3. Don't stress about any potential outcomes. Recognize that rejection is inevitable and that you can't expect anyone to return mutual romantic interest. Step 4. Most importantly, make sure that your confession doesn't jeopardize the friendship. But as I continued staring at the folded note on Alexander's desk, my mind was already spinning with thoughts about how he'd react when he finally read it, and how, if at all, this would impact our friendship moving forward. I couldn't help myself. I was desperate for some sort of answer, whether it was good or bad. I kept secretly eyeing Alexander's desk, wondering if he'd spotted the note I'd placed there, but he was currently preoccupied with listening to our history teacher drone on about the catastrophes that occurred during World War II. I tapped my pen nervously against my open notebook, trying desperately to pay attention, while simultaneously trying not to lose my mind over what Alexander had in store waiting for him. Oh, today was going to be fun for sure. Alexander. I continued to take notes and listen as Mr. Hubert droned endlessly about the catastrophes that occurred during World War II. As I was doing so, I was inherently distracted by Sylvia casting secretive glances at me, unaware that I could see her. What was she on about? I thought. In the years I've known her, while we were thick as thieves, Sylvia could still be pretty secretive sometimes, and was often known to do spontaneous things on impulse. Oh, Sylvia, I thought, while chuckling silently to myself. I won't ever grow tired of your spontaneity or secretive nature, no matter how much it truly pisses me off sometimes. After a while, Mr. Hubert paused, glared at the entire class, and announced, All right, everyone, let's all take a quick 5-minute break before resuming our lesson. I'm sure you're all tired of listening to me talk your ears off, so I think we all deserve a break. With that, we'll continue after intermission. The entire class laughed at this, and shortly afterward, we disbanded for break. Just as I was about to turn my attention towards Sylvia, who sat in the desk beside mine, I instantly caught sight of a folded piece of paper lying on my desk. Curious, without giving it much thought, I grabbed it and began unfolding the paper. When I'd successfully unfolded it, I was surprised to see that the contents of the paper consisted entirely of Sylvia's handwriting. This discovery was a little odd. Whenever Sylvia and I wanted to communicate something to each other, we'd either do so verbally or via text messaging, so this was a bit different and slightly outside of what she normally does. If she had something to tell me, why didn't she do it via text? I thought. Despite this, I decided to give her the benefit of the doubt, and pushing the thought away, I read her note. Sylvia. I glanced over at Alexander again and was shocked to discover that he was currently reading my note. Shit, this was it. It was really happening, and there was no turning back from it now. My heart continued beating furiously while I watched him read my note, trying to gauge his reaction, but his expression was unreadable. It was blank, and it remained that way for several moments. I just wish I could know what he thought about what I'd written, but until I heard from him again, I had no clue. As much as I hated to admit it, I was currently on edge about the whole thing, and if anything, I was longing for the moment when my nerves would take the hint and fuck off. I'm just as eager at this point, and it was clearly getting the better of me. Hopefully his reaction wouldn't be too harsh. I was honestly more worried about jeopardizing our friendship rather than worrying if he too felt differently about me. The anticipation was pulling at me hard. I didn't know for how much longer I could stand it, but I sensed that I was growing steadily impatient, which wasn't unusual for me. I was, however, working on toning that down because my impatient tendencies were capable of transforming into something quite intense, and I genuinely wanted to avoid taking it out on Alexander because it simply wasn't fair to him. Shortly afterwards, though, our 5-minute break had already flown by, and Mr. Hubert went back to resuming his lesson. I tried my hardest not to roll my eyes in annoyance, because doing so was incredibly rude. I didn't want to be forced to pay attention again, especially if it was a topic I really didn't care for. While I respected that history was a subject that people were often fascinated by, I wasn't one of them. History just wasn't my thing, but alas, despite finding it boring, I forced myself to pay attention and pushed thoughts of Alexander and my note from my mind. After all, I'd find out later what he thought of it, right? Even if waiting killed me, it was a sacrifice I was willing to make. Alexander. Before I knew it, class had ended, and I was preparing to head to the quad for lunch. After packing my things and slipping my bag over my shoulders, I headed towards Sylvia's desk. Hey, Sylvia, can I? But before I had a chance to finish my sentence, Sylvia cut me off. I hate to cut things short, but I'll be leaving momentarily to head over to the library. I'm meeting Jenny for a lunch study session. Whatever you wish to speak to me about can be discussed later. I'm sorry, Alex. She then zipped her bag, placed it over one shoulder, and left the room without another word. This action alone left me feeling confused, but I chose to not give it much thought. I'm sure she'd be ready to talk later. It didn't bother me that she was busy, or that she needed to study for an upcoming calculus exam she'd been stressing over for the past week. I'm sure she would do well, I thought. Math was a subject she was naturally gifted at. Realizing she was preoccupied with studying for her upcoming calculus exam, I knew I probably shouldn't bother her and that it was best to leave her be. She had better things to do anyway. I'm just extremely eager to tell her about how her note made me feel. I accepted that this discussion would have to wait until later, which I was perfectly fine with. I only wanted to get my thoughts off my chest after all. With that, I exited the classroom and headed to the quad, hoping to enjoy my lunch and take my mind off of what was bothering me. You'll get to talk to her soon, Alex, rang a voice inside my head. Stop overthinking and stressing about it. When she's ready to have this discussion, you'll know. I just hope that I wouldn't freak her out by what I had yet to tell her. After all, I wouldn't want to jeopardize the friendship I've had with a girl since kindergarten. Geez, why do feelings have to be so complicated? Why do they have so many unwritten rules? After all, no one tells you how to tread safely when complicated emotions are involved. My friendship with Sylvia meant everything to me, and as cliche as this sounds, I wouldn't change it for the world. What we had was too delicate to screw up. She understood me in ways no one else could. She and I had always been thick as thieves. We told each other everything, and have gone through a lot together, as far as childhood best friends typically did. I wasn't ready to see that end if what I had to say ruined us, which I'm hoping for the better that it didn't. It's not that easy when more emotions are involved, especially when the recipient was someone you knew inside and out. Fuck, I just hoped our talk went well later. I was eager to see where the outcomes led me. Keeping this to myself would only continue eating me alive. Sylvia. I arrived at the library to find Jenny already there, sitting at one of the tables with her calculus textbook open in front of her. Her lunch sat beside her, untouched. She was so absorbed in what she was doing that she didn't notice me first, but it wasn't until I finally pulled up a chair across from her when she finally looked up. A smile crept across her face. "Sylvia, you made it," she said cheerfully. "Perfect timing. I'm just as eager as ever to begin our study session. God, I've just been cramming in everything over the past 2 weeks in order to prepare myself for our exam. Mr. Tran's tests are always so difficult, and this is my second time taking his class." I sat my bag down on the floor beside the table and took my seat across from her. Strangely, I knew exactly how she felt. Math was a very stressful subject, and calculus was no easy beast to conquer. While I personally enjoyed math immensely, calculus being one of my favorite areas, I too understood the stress that was often associated with it, and oftentimes found myself stressing over not doing well. Although it might not appear that way from the outside, and despite my reputation of being a math genius, I was constantly worrying about not doing well in a subject that came as second nature to me. It was ironic how much grades were capable of defining how the rest of your future would turn out. "I'm sure you'll do well, Jenny," I replied, reassuring her. "If you've been studying hard, I have faith that you'll succeed." Jenny laughed. "Thanks for the encouragement, Sylvia." "My pleasure." With that, I took the opportunity to open my bag, retrieve my calculus textbook, my notes, my calculator, and my lunch. I glanced at Jenny again. "Well, shall we proceed?" I asked. She nodded. With that, we then dove into our study session and soon became immersed in what we were doing. It remained that way for the rest of our lunch period. Strangely, I was too busy studying to even think about Alexander or what he wanted to tell me. I knew I'd learn soon enough. In the meantime, I had more important things to worry about. Alexander. The rest of the day continued without a hitch, and by the time the final bell rang, I was unintentionally driving myself mad. Get a grip on yourself already, I thought. Stop stressing, goddammit. Cool down a little, why don't you? I packed my bag for one last time and headed towards the front of our high school to where my car sat parked in one of the lots. If anything, I was eager than ever to make it home, immerse myself in the English paper I had yet to write, and try my best to forget about whatever the hell was going on with Sylvia. God, that's all my mind had been trained on today, almost as if it were programmed to constantly think about her. Sylvia, Sylvia, Sylvia. Stop thinking about her, Alex. You'll only make things worse. Just leave it alone. Don't even consider pestering her, since all she'll do is pull away. You know how she is. I tried my best to reprogram my thoughts while walking to my car. Once I finally reached my car, I propped open the trunk and loaded both my school bag and English textbook into it before shutting it closed. With that, I made my way over to the driver's seat, unlocked the door, and soon enough, I was already making my journey home. 10 minutes later, I was home and had already unloaded my trunk before making my way to my room, shutting the door behind me. I then set to work on writing my essay without a care in the world. Pretty soon, nearly 2 hours had passed, and during that time I didn't once ponder over Sylvia or consider texting her. I was too immersed in what I was doing. As the night continued, I had dinner, and it wasn't until I returned to my room that I decided to check my phone. When I switched on the screen, my heart leapt inside my throat, and I was convinced that my stomach was going to fall out of my ass. Sylvia had texted me 30 minutes ago. Nervous, I clicked the iMessage notification and read the text, trying not to let my emotions get the better of me. To Alexander Wallace, from Sylvia Chan. Hey, I know that I was busy earlier, but if you're ready to talk, I'd be down to do so. I just hope I didn't mess everything up. I've been going crazy all day wondering what you think. Can we meet at your house soon, if that's okay? I'm really curious to hear what you have to say. Thanks. Smiley face. XOXO, Sylvia. Instantly, I began typing reply, and pretty soon the duo was sealed. I would be meeting Sylvia soon, and I was enjoying the prospect. My little heart was so happy I nearly felt like crying. Hopefully I wouldn't cry when actually speaking to her, because that would be incredibly awkward and embarrassing. Sylvia. My phone screen lit up with the following text from Alex. To Sylvia Chan, from Alexander Wallace. Yes, that sounds perfect. We can definitely meet at my house soon. See you then. Smiley face. I was shaking and I couldn't stop. Pretty soon, I'd be meeting Alex at his house, and I was unsure about what would transpire from there. What would Alex say to me next, I thought. Would I even be able to face him again? I didn't know what was bound to happen next, but nonetheless, I'm eager to go along for the ride. With that, I got ready to head over to Alex's house, feeling more nervous than I've ever felt in my life. 5 minutes later, I left my house and was making my way towards his front door, since he and I lived down the street from each other. I was a ball of nerves by the time I knocked on his door. This was it, I thought. There was no turning back now. Just keep it together. After knocking, I stood awkwardly waiting a few moments on his front porch. I was quickly released from my awkwardness when the front door opened and his mom greeted me in the doorway, looking confused. Hi, Miss Wallace. Is Alex here by any chance? I asked. She nodded. I know this seems odd, but I need to speak to him, which is why I'm here. We won't be long, I promise. I'm really sorry to have disturbed your evening. She laughed. Oh, Sylvia, you know I don't mind you coming over. Feel free to stay as long as you wish. I smiled. Thanks. She then led me inside, and without thinking, I made my way towards Alexander's room. Time seemed to move in slow motion, almost like a movie montage was playing right before my eyes. It felt as if I were no longer the main character of my life anymore, and that these events were instead happening to someone else. Alex opened the door after I knocked, looking like a deer in headlights once he saw me standing before him. Sylvia, But before he even had a chance to finish, I approached him, and without hesitation, I silenced him with a kiss. We stood in the doorway of his bedroom, kissing. Our kisses grew deeper with every passing moment, and it felt so electric that I never wanted us to stop. We broke apart where Alex looked me in the eyes and said, through his astonishment, Wow, I like this. Silence arose between us, but then Alex broke it by saying, Let's keep going. Without hesitation, he leaned in and kissed me again, wrapping his arms around my waist. He then briefly broke away from me and whispered, My confession is that I also like you too, Sylvia, and regardless of how cliche this sounds, I always have. And yes, I'd love to be your boyfriend, no matter what that looks like. I was so happy I felt like crying. Like clockwork, Alexander and I went back to kissing, and everything about that night was far more fantastical than I ever could have anticipated. There was no weirdness between us whatsoever, and I was ultimately relieved that our friendship wasn't impacted, and that he too felt mutually about me as I did about him. While nothing was easy, things were finally coming together, and seeing it come to fruition was so worth it. I knew then that I no longer needed an instruction manual on how to get the boy, seeing as I already mastered that goal. Who knew that a single note, a single confession penned by me would lead me to where I desperately wanted to be, because I never anticipated it either. The note. Alex, look, I know we've been friends since we were small, but I want you to know that you'll always mean everything to me, and I wouldn't have it any other way. There's something I've been meaning to get off my chest for a while now, and it's that I've had a crush on you for the better part of a year and a half, and I've known that I've wanted to be your girlfriend upon making this discovery, and every moment I haven't told you kills me. But with that being said, I don't want my confession to jeopardize our friendship, since we both know how most friends to lovers arcs end, but that's besides the point. Now that I've said everything I needed to, while I'm dreading what you'll think about this, since writing my feelings down on a piece of paper is far from my usual style of telling you things, there's also a question I've been meaning to ask you. I recognize that this is really cheesy, but will you be my boyfriend? I know this is a lot to take in, but releasing my feelings this way genuinely felt like a good outlet for me to express myself, since the thought of telling you this in person terrifies the hell out of me. Feel free to tell me what you think. Go ahead and take your time. I look forward to hearing from you soon. Sylvia.